Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast. We're your hosts, Brandon Baca.
And I'm Marl Hessen.
The Agent Bridge is the proven path to real estate success without the burnout. All right, guys, back again, episode number 5. We're going to talk about your first 30 days as a real estate agent. RL and I were brainstorming about this yesterday, and I think we're going to create some sort of series for, basically starting from zero and building a pipeline and what to do with the pipeline. So I'm looking forward to this episode and upcoming episodes, and yeah, it should be fun.
Yeah, I think that series is good. Just follow the trajectory of a new agent.
Yeah.
It should be fun.
And we appreciate, by the way, thank you guys for the feedback on the podcast. It's helped us develop some of the content, and it's encouraging to hear so many of you guys that have had success by setting up or by following the principles that we've been talking about. I had an agent reach out to me last week and said, hey, I got off the last, we did 5 dysfunctions. If you haven't listened to 5 dysfunctions, go back and listen to it. But he said, it felt like a call to action. I ended up setting 2 for sell by owner appointments, 1 with a builder. And I set up a appointment with a potential new team member.
Nice.
So
Great.
That was exciting.
Great feedback.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to talk about your first 30 days as a real estate agent. The first thing that I want to talk about is the way in which you should be thinking in your approach to doing real estate, because if you're coming into real estate, you're going to be overwhelmed right out of the gate. It's going to be challenging. There's going to be so much information. It's drinking from a fire hose. And so a lot of times that will shut people down. They're like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where to start. And yeah, it can keep people from taking action. So just understand that you're going to be overwhelmed and that it's okay.
Always.
And take a breath. Yeah, breathe through it and just keep moving forward. And I think what we're going to do today is break down, okay, here are the essentials, the things that you should dial in on first. The other things will sort of take care of themselves. And I think that people also they feel like, I need to know everything about real estate. I need to know everything about contracts. I need to know everything about everything before I take action. And it's just not going to work that way. There's no way you can.
Yeah, you would never get to the point where you're taking action.
Yeah,
you learn something each and every time you go out there. So if you needed to know it all before you started, then you'd be in trouble.
And then the best way to learn is through you encountering scenarios and where you got to solve problems. And so don't be afraid to jump out there and get started. The other mindset that you want to have is just the becoming 1% better at each of these actions every single day. So don't think you're not going to achieve mastery overnight. Just go, okay, my for sell by owner calls are going to be 1% better. My CMAs that I'm going to be doing are going to be 1% better. My interaction with a buyer or seller is going to be 1% better each time that I do it every single day.
Yeah. And you've even got a little challenge going on through the end of the year to try to set a number of recruiting appointments. And even you mentioned this, like the first, 10, 20 calls, you're perfecting your pitch or your script. Yeah. So it's like, you didn't get out there and say, hey, I've got to perfect this before I go start making these calls. You said, hey, I'm going to perfect it on the first 20, and hopefully the next 20 are even better.
A lot of this mindset I got because I'm like a huge stand-up comedy fan. So I follow like all of these guys. Like one of my favorites is Nate Bargatze, Sebastian Maniscalco, Jerry Seinfeld. So I kind of get into their process for developing comedy, and they'll even tell you their job is like, I just get on stage as often as I can to work through the bits to find out what people are going to laugh and not going to laugh to deliver basically their act. So they're developing their act while they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that I would say the same thing for real estate agents. You're going to develop your pitch or you're going to develop your interaction just through finding out what works and doesn't work. That's the process.
Absolutely.
So make sure you do that. All right. The other thing is another mindset hack is disconnect from the results. One of the most frustrating things that you can encounter is that you're not going to get quick results. So if you're used to, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make this appointment and they're going to list with me automatically, it's not going to happen. You're typically, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some follow-up So you want to dial in on, okay, what is my process for setting appointments, converting leads, things like that, rather than I didn't get any listings this week or didn't get any contracts this week.
Yeah, we tell new agents minimum of 6 months before your first deal, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like even it could even be 12 months, and that's okay too. But you'll get into a process, you'll start to build up that pipeline, and deals will come.
Yeah, and I mean, it's possible to get deals in your first 6 months. I think it depends on the level of activity. Most people aren't going to have enough experience / activity right out of the gate or enough time for that stuff to develop.
Yeah, there's always outliers. I mean, people have family members that are ready to go right away. We see that a fair amount to where, they get their first listing in the first couple months, but I would say that's the outlier.
But even for realtors, because I asked realtors this a lot. I said, okay, who had a deal close this week? Great. When was the first time you talked to that client? Consistently, it's 6 to 12 months from the time that they talked to that client to the time they actually ended up buying or selling a home.
Yeah, I believe that. And
or getting a paycheck rather.
Right. And we even talk about this, and this episode's not about buying leads. It's not at all about buying leads. I don't recommend it in your first 30 days at all. But we even tell that to people who are buying leads, like you are paying for some sort of lead source, whether it's like Google ads or whatever. Those are long plays. Like that's going to take 6, 12, 18 months of follow-up before that lead ever decides to buy. So the patience has to transcend just the first 30 days. Like all these cycles for real estate transactions are not the same as other sales cycles in different verticals.
Yeah, because when people are coming to you, typically they're researching. It's like, what's my plan? They're not waiting till the last minute and saying, hey, I need to buy a house overnight. It's just a massive decision. There are so many things that have to align. Finances, down payments, pre-approvals, even before they even get to a place where they can buy a house, there's so much stuff that has to happen in their life.
And I think you said this on one of the first few episodes. It's the biggest thing they'll ever buy, the largest purchase they'll ever make. They're not going to make it on a whim. This is a long-term process.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. So again, disconnect from the result, right? Just dial in on your process. If you got a good coach, good broker, they're going to be, and you can kind of have some active feedback as you're going, which I highly encourage, is that you have that mentor, have that coach. The best thing you can do with your mentor or with your coach is go do what they're telling you to do and then go give them feedback. There's nothing a mentor or coach loves more than getting active feedback from somebody who's taking action. And so you're going to be a student, be an A student. Right? Have communication lines open with the people who are teaching you. Go out and take action. And I'm telling you, that's your fastest path to being successful. That's your fastest path to getting money in your bank account is being an A student in this process.
Yeah. The minute one of us gets a feedback about this podcast, like someone reached out and said, hey, I actually picked up the phone, made a call, got an appointment. I mean, that makes us feel great. It
makes us feel great, but also we go, okay, that guy's a winner or that gal's a winner.
Yeah. They went out and then took the advice and action.
Right.
It's all about action.
Okay. So where should we get started? And, we talked about this again, we're kind of going back to a previous episode in terms of going after transactional lead sources, because the first thing you need in your business is cash, so don't think about organization, think about cash flow as a primary, because cash flow is going to buy you time to get some of your systems organized, but don't worry about that right out of the gate. Don't worry about, you said this again in a previous episode, don't worry about mastering your CRM, your software. I want you to hit the phones almost immediately. And if you can't hit the phones right out of the gate, you might be in the wrong industry. Yeah. It's just part of, that's the best place to learn is just commit to making those first 100, 200, 300 calls to transactional lead sources. And you are going to learn so much in that. So the faster you make those calls, the more professional you're going to be.
Yeah. I mean, the first 200 calls, you're going to learn how to deal with 500 plus objections right there. Mm-hmm. So the next time you're in person with someone at a listing appointment or whatever, you're already going to have that experience to draw back from.
I think the biggest hesitation people have is just the fear of being told off by the person that's on the other line. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
Well, yeah, that's first. You have to kind of go, well, whatever. Some people are going to be Karens. There's nothing you can do about that. But the reality of it is, by and large, you don't get that kind of.
No.
Most people are normal people. They may get a little ticked off because they're getting hounded by realtors, but again, you can develop a strategy around that. One of the things I used to do is I'd say, "Hey, it's Brandon. I'm a realtor, but don't hang up the phone." And they would usually, and I would talk to them and get into the conversation. They would go, the reason that I even let this call go on that long is because you said don't hang up the phone, right? So just that little pattern, what we call a pattern interrupt in the business. And there are multiple pattern interrupts. Go Google pattern interrupts because typically what you're trying, they're on a path mentally, right? Especially if they're a for sale by owner, that they're going, oh man, it's another one of these. So what are you going to do to differentiate yourself right out of the gate?
Yeah, and they're expecting you to react a certain way because that's natural.
Yeah.
So react differently, and it'll surprise them, like you said, pattern interrupt.
Yeah, and be real. I think the other sort of advice I would give on those calls is pretend like you're talking to your best friend on the other line. So that way it just sort of, you don't want to put on that sales voice, right? The telemarketer voice. It's even okay to stumble a little bit because that makes you more authentic, makes you more real. If you don't have it all just perfect in your scripting.
Yeah. At the beginning, you're really trying to form a relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really trying to become a trusted advisor to them out of the gate, not trying to sell anything. And hopefully they remember you when the time comes.
Yeah. So for sell by owners, again, you can go to Zillow, in the home search or buy a home category. There's a little drop down menu. It'll say for sell by owners. You click on that button that says for sell by owners, and it'll pull up a map. The map will all of a sudden look like it has chicken pox. And those are all sellers that have actively listed for sell by owner. And then if you sort of pull that up, and I don't have a screenshot for this, but pull it up and you scroll to the bottom and it'll show the seller's phone number. And then you pick up the phone and you call that number. And in terms of scripting, we have scripts that we give our agents for sell by owners. If you want a script for sell by owners, feel free to reach out to me, Brandon Baca at 10oaksre.com. And I'll send you the script that we use for our agents. You can go on YouTube and watch people do live for sell by owner calls. And one of the things that you're going to think is, man, all these people are doing for sell by owners. Doesn't that make me a commodity? Am I just going to be another person in a long line? And really, when you dial in, there's not a large percentage of real estate agents that actually reach out to them.
Yeah.
So pick up the phone, use the script, and just try it out and find out what works. Find out what works for you, for your personality style. Those scripts are just a baseline for you to develop your own.
Absolutely.
So there are going to be some key points, that you want to take in those scripts, but you should develop your own flow, your own rhythm, your own language even.
Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, when you make a for sale by owner call, you're not the first one that's called them.
Right.
That's okay. You are your own person. You have your own personality. Everybody's going to, react differently to certain people. And maybe that's the one that's going to react positively to you. So it's making those calls, and, you might make 10 calls and 2 people let you in the house, but that's okay.
Yeah. Make those calls, follow up, but the key here in your follow-up or in your interaction with them when you've gone to your for sale by owner appointment. And I tell people, look, at your for sale by owner appointment, you're just looking to determine 2 things. One, their timeline, right? When do they want to move? A great way to ask this question is, hey, if I were to bring you a buyer today, how much time would you need to get out of the house?
Yep.
Or how much time would you need to close? Okay, now you're determining their timeline because you're activating the part of their brain where they go, all right, hang on, when do I need to be out of the house if I were to sell it today? And some people don't even have a plan. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Most for sale by owners are waiting for a unicorn to drop out of the sky and pay cash for their house. And so Don't say that, by the way, on your first for sale.
Yeah, don't say that.
Don't say that.
But it's true.
But it's true. I mean, they don't really have a plan for, hey, what happens if I actually sell this thing? So, one is help them or ask the question that activates the part of the brain that helps them think about the timeline, so you can find out when they need to move, because it's usually around a life event, a job change,
School zone,
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got that part of it, and then the reason for moving, right? So those two things, timeline and intention. That way you can start to deliver solutions. And this is where the service part of it comes in, where you're sort of going in not to make the sale, but to help them produce the best outcome for their life. That mindset is going to be a game changer for you. So if you're showing up to not to sell, but to serve, right? Let me help them get where they want to get. Even if it means, and here's where I would challenge agents, even if it means you don't get the listing, if there's a scenario that you can create for them or a way that you can help them without listing their house, do it. Like, just think of it and like, how do I help them better their lives? And it's going to come back to you in the right way.
Yeah. We had a meeting today, and one of our agents said that, somebody had been reaching out. She wasn't even their agent, but somebody had been reaching out constantly to her. She was just answering questions and being helpful. And sure enough, that person that she'd been talking to fired their existing agent and started working with her. And all she was doing was being helpful. She wasn't saying, hey, list with me instead, I'm a better agent, yada. She wasn't doing any of that. She was just answering questions and being helpful. And that's kind of the same mindset. It's like she was there to be a good person and to serve this client, potential client. At that point, it wasn't a client, but just a potential client. And, it came back to her 100%. So
yeah, no question. So again, just look for ways to create an environment or a relationship of service. Get to know them, get to know their kids, get to know their situation, and truly seek to help them. Okay, open houses. You got to do them. Most agents are doing them the wrong way. They're shrewding them, these open houses.
But wait, Brandon, like they don't work.
It's an office reference.
Yeah.
Don't shroot the open house. But most agents go into them going, all right, well, I'm trying to sell this house on the open house. Can that be a benefit of it? Yeah, it's possible. You are showcasing the seller's house, but you typically want to use those as a store for you. The realtor, or you in the scenario, is the product, your expertise, your knowledge of the neighborhood. And before you even get to the open house, you need to know everything about every house that's on the market within about a mile.
Yeah, we talked about that on a previous episode. Yeah. Be a neighborhood expert when you walk in that door.
That's right.
You will get business. If you are the neighborhood expert, because people, walk through the house that are, down the street. They just want to see what's going on.
Yeah, do your homework.
Yeah.
Right? Go knock doors. Tell people you're having that. Say, hey, come on, come to the open house. I'll be here. Come see if this would be a good fit for one of your friends. It gives you an opportunity to interact with the neighbors. When the neighbors come in, you can kind of pump them for information too. Hey, how do you like it here? What are the pros and cons of living here? Yep. And then that's just going to further develop your expertise in the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
This is going to be controversial. Don't do a sign-in sheet. Nobody's given you, a very few will actually give you real information on a sign-up sheet.
But you'll get some funny stuff on it.
That's right. You'll get some interesting information. But it just creates an awkward scenario, and they're thinking, oh man, am I going to get, hounded? So I say, don't do the sign-in sheet. Rather, develop the opportunity for relationship. People are going to, I would say, if you get 10 people through the open house, you're going to have 3 really good interactions where you should be able to get information. And that's what I was going for in open houses. I just want three people's name and numbers that I actually expressed some sort of desire or need to me. I even had a guy one time who, I feel like I'm a nice person, right? I don't feel like I'm I am. And I, try not to hard sell anybody, just try to create conversations. And this one guy, I just remember I was sitting in this open house and he was out on the front porch, and his I think wife or girlfriend or whatever was we were talking about something, and he texted her from the front porch. It was time to go. I was like, I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you don't have to be like that.
Yeah.
But people are going to do that, or they're going to escape out the back door. Don't worry about them, right? You're worrying about those 3 good interactions that you're going to have every open house to create some interest, or to showcase your value. So there's that part of it. What else am I missing on open houses that you need to do? Give them an assignment. So it's like what I would say is, hey, they just remodeled their bathroom. Go take a look and tell me what you think. Because I'm not going to follow them around the house. The number one objection I'm going to get on this is people go, well, how do you know they're not going to steal something? And what I'm going to tell you is, tell your clients if they have anything super valuable to lock it up.
Yeah. Common sense.
Yeah. You're not going to, you can't hound people when they walk in the door. I'm not even going to go into that, but anyway, just, have them lock up their valuables, and, give those clients some space to walk through and see the house, so you're not high pressure, and then create a conversation on the back end. So if they say, hey, what did you think about the bathroom, or the remodeled whatever kitchen, then we've created a conversation point. As soon as they talk to me, I go, so what are you guys looking for? And that typically leads to the conversation or not. So that was kind of the process. Is like, they walk in, I give them some space, ask them to go look at something, or give me some feedback on something. They come back, and then I strike up that conversation. So what are you guys looking for?
And they probably let their guard down a bit when you refocus the direction away from the house that they're standing in to what they want.
Right.
They're happy to tell you what they want. They just probably don't want you to sell them hard on that one house.
Right. The other feedback I'm going to get is, well, shouldn't you ask them if they're working with an agent? Because that could be an ethics violation if you are, talking to them and they're already with another agent.
Where's their agent?
No, exactly. I don't, I'm not going to sort of propose that you violate any ethics, any code of ethics things, but like I just say, assume that they need help. They'll tell you if they've got a realtor. So don't ask. Because if you do ask, I think it's an easy out for that person because they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So, just assume it most of the time. I mean, 95% of the time, they're not going to have a signed brokerage agreement with some agent, right? They might tell you they have an agent, which is maybe their sister that lives in Pennsylvania. That's not even in your state, just so they don't have to interact with you. So don't ask. All right. Anything else on open houses?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So let's get into the networking part of it. One of the things that I think is super helpful, both from a training perspective and from a interactive perspective with your people that you already know, because it's going to take a little while for people to use you. You have to consistently remind them and show them that you're out there doing real estate activity, because you need to gain their trust as a real estate professional, and they typically know you as what you did before. But if you go pick 10 people, like friends, family, whatever, and it's actually going to be more than 10. I just say do one CMA a day. For you that don't know, a CMA is a comparative market analysis. So it's when you're pulling comps on someone's house, and pull comps every single day and snail mail them to your a friend, family member, somebody in your network, and just call them and say, hey, do you mind if if I comp your house? It's going to give me good practice as a real estate agent.
Yeah. Throw it in the trash if you don't want it. Just let me practice, and you'll get some good feedback.
You're going to get some good feedback and potentially some clients.
Absolutely.
So you're extending a service to them. You're giving them a value on their home, and it's giving you great practice for pulling comps, because that's one of the things that people are sort of have a roadblock with, is like, how do I pull comps? It's like practice.
Yeah, and it's like Inception. You're going to send them this, and they're going to look at it, and they're going to be like, "Wow, my house is worth $400,000. I didn't know that." And then they're going to start flip through it, and they're like, "Hey, Fred, maybe we do need to sell."
Right.
And it's going to start a process, and maybe it's 12 months later, but
Perfect example. So my mother-in-law, which I have a real estate brokerage in Oklahoma, right? Ten Oaks has a real estate brokerage in Oklahoma. My mother-in-law lives in Oklahoma City, which is where our brokerage is located. And she had comps that another agent had sent her on her refrigerator, magneted on her refrigerator when I was there a couple of weeks ago.
Come on, Mom.
I was like, you could have just called me and asked me. But that just goes to show you, and by the way, with her card, there's nothing like walking into your mother-in-law's house and having comps from another realtor with a business card magneted to the refrigerator.
Yeah, see, folks, your sphere doesn't always use you, even if you're Brandon Baca.
But she better use me. But anyway, so just send the CMA. It will work, and it will solidify in their mind. And to her, it was an encouragement. Basically, you're encouraging people. It's like, hey, your house has pretty good value.
Yeah.
Typically, it's more than what people think it is.
Absolutely.
Unless you live in Williamson County in the last, 6 months.
I mean, I think people right now are certainly going to be surprised when they see their house values compared to 3 years ago.
Yep. Okay, so do CMA a day. I like for networking appointments, like when you're networking with your sphere of influence or people number one, do coffee, not lunch. Because if the conversation, it's just an easier scenario in which to create a conversation, and it's not as much pressure. I don't like the interruption of like
Eating,
people eating and people coming and in and interrupting and stuff like that. So I think coffee is a great way to do it. But what I'll tell you is don't look at it as, hey, let me tell you what I'm doing. Find out what's going on in their life.
Best way for sure.
So the sort of easy, if you're not a conversationalist or that doesn't come super easy to you, use an acronym called FROG. That's family. The F is for family, R is for recreation, O is for occupation, G is for goals. So it's like, how's your family? What are you doing for fun? How's work? And what are your goals for the year? And the reason that you ask those is those questions are going to come right back to you.
Yep.
Right? So it's that sort of reciprocity in conversation. So it should be like a tennis match, and they're going to ask you about your work and your goals. So yeah, make it about them, but those conversations are actually going to come back your way, and then you can kind of tell them about what you got going on.
You're trying to create a network. So the more you know about them and their activities and what they have going on, you're going to say, hey, Brandon has been working out over at Lifetime as well. Have you met him?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just going to start to figure out who they play ball with and who they know. And then you lead that into another conversation with that person, and you're just expanding your network from there.
Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to become like a mayor in your town.
Exactly.
And everywhere you go, right? If you're doing this the right way, everywhere you go in your town, you're going to run into somebody you know. That's when you know you're on the right track, is when you're expanding your network in a way and championing other people and their businesses in a way that when you walk in a place, you know people, right? So,
and this is not selective to real estate.
No.
It's almost universally true that it's who you know, not what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're working to expand your network. The person, if they're, business savvy or is probably doing the same thing, they're probably trying to expand their network as well. They're just trying to become the mayor of their small community. And
that's right.
The more people you know.
That's exactly right.
It creates additional opportunities in every aspect of your life.
So if it's the golf club, coffee shop, bar, whatever, restaurant, anywhere you go, you want to, even if you're knowing just the staff and servers at the restaurant, the barista at the coffee shop, that's a great place to start. If these are regular places that you go, so you can create positive interactions. And I mean, I had realtors that would just go to the same coffee shop every day, and they developed a whole network out of that. One of the best networks I created from I didn't create this, actually my wife created it. It was her when we were in Oklahoma City, her homeschool community, right? So we had a homeschool co-op. And so that was a community for us, and we knew everybody in it. So when it's time to sell houses, I got a lot of business from that. So that's kind of how that works, is you're continually investing in your network, whether that's a homeschool co-op, your church, your kids' sports teams, whatever.
Yeah. And we talked about my career trajectory on another episode, but the very first internship I had was something I created for myself. I went out and interviewed, panel interviewed, blind, and got the job. But after that, every single corporate job I had was, I knew someone. I picked up the phone, I reached out, I said, hey, I know you're here. I like what you're doing. Do you guys have anything available? And I would just jump there. I almost never interviewed after that. I was just calling people I knew in my network.
That's just how it works, though.
It's just how it works.
Okay, so that's the networking part of it. This is a hangout for people, is contract training, because they feel like they got to know, a contract backwards and forwards. I do think it's important to know contract stuff. I don't think you're really going to learn it really, really well until you actually start doing some of them, and there's some consequence behind that stuff. But the number one thing that you should do is, with your coach or mentor or trainer, is go grab 10 contracts, go pick 10 random addresses and write offers on them. By
the end of that period, it's going to take you no more than 7 to 10 minutes to write a complete contract.
Right. Here's the question, though, because we tell people to do this all the time and almost nobody does it.
Nobody does it.
And I don't understand that. But I mean, maybe it feels like, oh, it's just like busy work, but I'm telling you, you're going to get such a really good understanding, because contracts are largely like fill in the blank. These have been written by dozens of attorneys and reviewed and corrected over the period of the last 20 or 30 years in each individual state. So they're pretty dialed in, and it's largely fill in the blank. So you don't have to be a lawyer. But just that going through that process of filling out those blanks is going to be super helpful to understanding the different sort of operative parts, or what's important in a contract.
Yeah, and practice scenarios. So practice with each of the forms. Use amendment forms, use addendum forms, request repairs, do all kinds of little scenarios to learn these things. But you just said what, in my opinion, is the most important thing. You are not a lawyer. You are not a legal advisor. You are not there to write this fancy language that nobody can read.
Right.
You write this in human readable form, and you make sure that the agent on the other side's understanding is the same as your understanding. Mm-hmm. That's your only goal.
That's right.
You're basically writing a self-explanatory sentence that they can read and say, all right, this is what Brandon's asking for.
That's exactly right.
Your only job. And people want to say, there, thou shalt do this. And like, no, we're not doing that. We're just writing.
Like it's the 10 Commandments or something, right?
Yeah, they're trying to create this Declaration of Independence or something. No, we're just writing something basic that they can read, and they know exactly what you're asking for.
Yeah, that's one of the things that bugs me about realtors sometimes, is they can go like uber professional in terms of like they think that they're an attorney, or they get real high on the hog on something. It's like, no, you're not a lawyer. Make it easy to understand for both parties and create a good outcome for everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And also just, that's going to get you through the process. Go attend a contract class. A lot of times your brokerage, your MLS, or the Association of Realtors will do those periodically, every couple of weeks or every month. So go attend the contract class.
Not exactly contract specific, but we talked about this yesterday, and it's just something kind of in that same, realm. You're trying to create a good working relationship with the other agent in the transaction. Yeah. You are not there to battle. You are there to come to terms and get the sale to the closing table and finish this so you both get paid. Yeah. So creating a good working relationship with that person out of the gate is the best way to do that. If you come to them and say, you try to play hardball and we're going to get this and you're going to give it to me and this is what we want, then I tell you, that might work for you in one deal, but it's not going to work for you, holistically.
The fastest way to kill a deal or to screw it up for your clients is to get in an argument with the other realtor.
Absolutely.
So stop doing that. If you are doing it, like, don't get chippy with people. Just like keep the good. What I tell realtors is keep the goodwill in the deal.
Or try to slide something in that they don't notice. Like, it's going to cause problems for you. Maybe not on this one, but the next one. The best way to do it is become friends, try to resolve things amicably, and get the deal to the closing table.
One more point I'll make on that is just generally across the board for everyone, whether you're selling, right? Whether you're doing these things that we're talking about today, right? Your first 30 days as a real estate agent with your people you're following up with, or with realtors and clients on the other side. I just want to make sure you're listening to this. Assume the best. Assume the best. Assume that the reason that the clients are not returning your phone call or getting back with you is because they're really, really busy.
Yep.
Or it could be a number of reasons. Assume that the realtor on the other side or the clients on the other side are doing what they feel like is in their best interest, and they're not trying to create an argument, right? So stop assuming the worst of everyone. Assume the best. And that's going to create a much better outcome mentally for you, and typically just in the general back and forth of a real estate transaction.
Yeah. People have a hard time with arguing with someone that's being kind and friendly. So, no matter what they're doing to frustrate you, you come at it with, an idea of service. Like, you're trying to get the deal to the closing table. How can I be helpful? What do you need from me? Yada, yada, yada. You'll close a lot more deals a lot more efficiently.
Agreed. Okay. So the ultimate sort of initial appointment result that you're looking for is about 2 appointments per day. If you're a part-time, I'd probably dial that back to 1. But you just want to kind of get in that rhythm. It's more about developing a rhythm. You're not going to feel like doing it every day. That doesn't matter, right? Just get into that process of setting 1 to 2 appointments per day and attending them. And that's going to create enough experience and enough feedback for you to develop a career.
Absolutely.
So the faster you can get, if you go do 100 appointments, you're going to get 5-10 deals.
Yeah, I would say closer to 10. That's a lot of appointments, and
yeah,
you should be able to close 10 deals.
Yeah, if you're doing it right. You think it's just, you talked about this again previously. It's a numbers game, right? If you're a decent person, average salesperson, you're doing 100 appointments, you're going to get business.
Absolutely.
So the only question is, how quickly can you get to those 100 appointments?
Yep. And you're going to refine your pitch, how you operate in those given scenarios pretty quickly. So, the first 20, you might be able to throw those out of the window, but the next 80, you're going to get better and better. And, by the end, it may be 20 deals instead of 10. You never know.
Yeah. And when I mean appointments, you're in front of the client.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Just a couple of just ancillary things. You're going to have to attend in your first 30 days. You're going to have to attend some sort of MLS orientation, which you should. You're going to have to attend some sort of realtorist association realtor orientation, which you should. And then I would take your brokerage. Your brokerage typically is going to give you a calendar of the events that they have coming. Go ahead and put those events on your calendar so that you can at least know if you're not able to make it. You need to know that it's happening, and you need to know what you're not taking advantage of so that you can work it into your calendar the next month. But those are just some ancillaries. Okay, so to recap, again, have a positive mindset. Know you're going to be overwhelmed at the beginning, but just focus on getting 1% better every day. Use for sell by owners, open houses, your network, to get some interactions with people, to develop yourself in a way that you can become an expert and give a solid pitch. So that's going to be active learning, right? You're going to be learning out in the field. And, on the contract part of it, just go do a bunch of them. And then the ultimate sort of goal that you should go for is 1 to 2 appointments per day over a 30-day period. Anything else you want to add?
No, that covers it. This is critical. If you're a new agent, brand new agent starting out, maybe you're already 60 days in, hit the reset button, do these things, and you'll see business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I encourage you. Yeah, if you're an existing agent, hit the reset button, and just, especially now in 2022, if you want to set 2023 up for a great year,
Absolutely.
Just do that 1 to 2 appointments a day, and you're going to get there. 2023 is going to be amazing.
Yep, agreed.
All right, guys. I think that's it for today. We'll see you next week.
Yep.